Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of September 27th, 2015. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. And a very happy October to everybody out there, as well as this week will take us into a new month. And what a better way to usher in that new month than a lunar eclipse. So right as this week begins, we are ushering in a lunar eclipse. Will be visible partially or fully throughout much of the planet. And I certainly will be watching right there with you guys and will be sort of interacting with you guys online on social media as we go along. So excited about this particular lunar eclipse. This eclipse is speaking in supreme harmony with Saturn. So this brings with it, any lunar eclipse is essentially like a full moon, but amped up about 25 times. And what it does is it makes us accept the truth, or rather it is a symbol for the truth that we know is coming, we feel, we've been sort of sensing all along, but now we're ready to admit it to ourselves. The difference with this is, and as I like to say, eclipses play out in accordance with your level of consciousness. So if you are a person who strives to stay in alignment with a higher will, or strives to do work on yourself, pay attention, what is it that your intuition, your instinct, your spirit, your soul, what is it that you're being called to do, then eclipses are sort of able to provide opportunities that further align you with a path that you knew that you were moving towards all along. But if you have moved off that path, and in some cases, sometimes people move significantly off the path of a very kind or kinder, more loving fate for yourself, then this will be a dramatic bringing you back on point. Now, the fact that this particular lunar eclipse is speaking in supreme harmony with Saturn does suggest that whatever realization, awareness comes about, it brings us a measure of stability and security. It helps ground us and plant us. The realizations, the developments that take place now in some way will contribute to the long-term plan for success, whether you want to call that success personal, or that success could be in practical matters as well. A lot depends on what part of the sky this particular eclipse is speaking to. Now, I did speak about this eclipse for every single monthly horoscope that I did for the month of September, so you may want to have a look at that again. But essentially, this is a promise that if you look at what really is, you acknowledge the full truth to yourself, you will be made more secure. And ultimately, what does come about now, the changes that come about now, the progress, the promises, the good things that arise ultimately are mature, are smart, and will pay wonderful dividends for a very, very long time to come. Because it's a lunar eclipse, it does denote an ending of some kind, and it does denote a surprise element sometimes to some kind as well. Think about what happens during an eclipse. Essentially what happens during a lunar eclipse is the moon is visible, and then over the course of the night, it is covered, right? It becomes not visible, and then slowly, well, not so slowly, in a matter of a few minutes, in a matter of a couple hours, becomes fully visible once again. So it's kind of like that in our own lives, where it was that we knew something was building, but maybe we weren't ready to really see it or acknowledge it. It's like all of a sudden, that truth appears before us. All of a sudden, we can't help but admit what it is that has served its purpose in our lives. So this could be really different depending on your personal situation, your personal circumstance, but it is an ending, as I said, that brings with it self-respect, and that brings with it a grounded type of progress that stays with us for a very, very long time to come. Lots of benefits happening here, lots of changes happening here. So if you are one of those people who is not able to see the immediate benefit of the changes that are taking place, my advice would be roll with it, as it is with a lot of things that happen in the sky. Now, I am very much of the belief that there are times when the universe says, take your power and run with it. Make your life whatever you want it to be. And there are times when it feels like our lives and events are more malleable. They're easier for us to shape and to contour and to make what it is that we want. And then there are times in life that say, okay, you don't have control. You don't have power right about now. And your greatest power is in surrender. So Saturn, Pluto transits are about surrender, are about accepting that sometimes things happen and they might not be fair, but that is the way it is. With eclipses, a lot depends on how that eclipse is speaking to other power players. As I said, this is a stabilizing eclipse taking place. And yet, because of that surprise element, and some signs do better with surprises than others, because of that surprise element, we might not know, or some of us might not know at first, how to deal with this energy. And if that is the case, just surrender, and very quickly, the advantages will become apparent. So if you are born in the last week of your sign, or of any month, rather, if you are born in the last week of any month, in any sign, you will feel this eclipse more than other people might. And yet all of us in some way are going to benefit from this eclipse. If you are somebody who was born in what's called a cardinal sign, so born in one of those signs where the season changes. So that's, Aries. This is an eclipse happening in the sign of Aries. That is the beginning of spring, right? And then other cardinal signs are the beginning of summer, which is Cancer, the beginning of the fall. We had very recently, this is in the northern hemisphere I'm talking about, but very recently last week we had the equinox, the autumn equinox. So I know on social media there was lots of happy equinox and blessings going around, conversations happening between me and friends and fans, and also amongst yourselves, and I absolutely love that. That was so beautiful. So Libra represents the beginning of a new season, of the autumn season in the northern hemisphere. And of course, Capricorn, being the other cardinal sign, represents the beginning of the winter season in the northern hemisphere. So if you are in a cardinal sign, I think that this will very likely, you are going to be one of those signs where it feels a little bit like, whoa, okay, what just happened? What's happening here? Or that realization that comes forward, you may not necessarily know how to deal with it at first. Again, just be patient. Let the emotion come, let the change come, and it won't take long at all to see the advantage and to see how it is that you're moving in a very positive and stable and secure direction that is going to help you and be part of you. Actually, for some people, again, especially those born in the very last week of any given month, the changes that take place now very likely may stay with us for a very long time to come, if not the rest of your life. The other interesting thing that's taking place with this eclipse that I did want to mention, if you are in a place where this eclipse is visible, so this eclipse is actually going to be visible in much of the world, so we're very fortunate to have that happen. But if you are in a place where the eclipse is visible, then you are likely to experience that shift and experience that change that much more. Now, everybody, regardless of where you are on the planet, will have benefit. But if you can actually see the eclipse, even if you're sleeping, if you know that people in your area are able to see it, it adds that much more power to the promise of change with this eclipse, to the promise of powerful change and initiating action that has wonderful long-term consequences for a very long time to come. The other thing happening this week, really interesting, is that we are going to have the sun meeting Mercury in the sky. So this is part of an ongoing dance. The sun and Mercury are never too far apart anyways. They tend to meet several times throughout the year, really. And right now Mercury is retrograde. So this week, as Mercury's retrograde, we'll be making another conjunction with the sun as part of a series of 3 with this retrograde cycle. And this is a mind meeting clarity, meeting will. This is an amplification of rationality. This is happening in the sign of Libra. So we are getting a lot of clarity around an issue having to do with a relationship. A key one-on-one partnership is likely to be highlighted for all of us in some way. So these two planets meeting, sometimes we can look at certain conversations and say, okay, this is likely to come about in ways that feel easy, that feel harmonious, that feel good. And other times, we're likely to look at some conversations that come out and say, okay, there's going to be some tension, there's going to be motivation, there's going to be a real desire for change. And sometimes we know that change comes about when we identify what isn't working. But this particular conversation is more in the neutral realm, if you will. Because of the nature of Mercury and the nature of the Sun, these two planets getting together is really just a heightening or a valuing of our more rational sensibilities, right? It is a gift. Rationality is one of our human gifts, as well as intuition is also. And there's also a furthering of an understanding. Okay, what is it that's really taking place within us in terms of how is it that we're living? How is it that we're really being ourselves or not? Now, because Mercury is retrograde, the Freudian slip, do watch the Freudian slip, because this is going to be a time when you say something, it just comes out by accident and you go, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. But it's speaking to some truth within you, some truth about your own belief. So whether that is centered around how you really feel about another person, you might find yourself saying something to them and being like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. That wasn't very nice of me. Well, if you find that there's some truth there may be a part of you that has a certain belief or has a certain feeling around this person that maybe you haven't wanted to look at or been covering up a little bit for whatever reason. But also the reverse is true as well. So if you've got a crush on somebody, this could be a time when you just, one little thing you say reveals it all. And you certainly can find ways to adjust or ways to kind of catch yourself in the moment, but it'll likely be after the fact. Well, thank you so much for watching the introduction to this week. I'm so excited about what's ahead. And again, a very, very happy October to everyone out there. I think that this is going to be a great month. The monthly horoscopes, I'm going to be honest with you, I always try to post them early. This month, there's been a whole lot of work. I love you guys so much for your trust, for keeping me busy, really, and for helping me to continue to live my mission in the world, which is to remind you, to affirm in the universe that the universe is wise and loving. Even those moments that feel hard, even those moments that feel challenging, and sometimes people go through some really challenging things, in some way, I do believe as part of the mystery, they are meant to move us towards greater love and greater wisdom. And so you allow me to live that. And lately, you guys have been allowing me to live that with great abundance. And I'm truly, truly so grateful for that. So the monthly horoscopes are likely going to be up like right on the last day of the month. So please be on the lookout for that. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. So grateful for it. And also I love interacting with you guys. Facebook, Twitter, Google+, my website, nadiyashah.com, and the YouTube channel as well in the comment section. I love reading you guys. I try to interact or, let you know that I am listening to you to the best of my ability. Sometimes you guys ask questions that are a little bit more personal, that have to do with your unique situation. And if that is the case, please do consider a personalized horoscope where I can do just that. Look at your unique birth chart and answer some very specific questions related to your unique situation as well. So you can check out, there's links all around here. There should be links on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, links in the description on my website and so forth. But again, the fact that you're here really does mean so much to me. The fact that you are here allows me to live my mission. And I hope that in some way infuses your life with not only the reminder that the universe is wise and loving, but also some hope, some inspiration, some clarity, and some understanding of how to best utilize the sky, because it is there as a mirror. It is there to be used to our advantage to help us get a symbolic perspective of what is taking place within us. And my hope is that in some way, in some small part, I am playing some small part of your sacred journey, and you being here, I'm truly so grateful for it. So how all this wonderful stuff speaks to you and your sign is coming up right now. Hello, fabulous Aries. This week is so important for you. It's such a big week, an important week for you in so many levels, on levels of heart, on levels of identity, on levels of understanding what needs to change if you truly are going to have the kind of future that you want to have. So one level of this has to do with, as I said, heart, and what tends to speak more to our hearts than love, particularly partnerships. So what we have happening is a part of an ongoing conversation that you have been having as Mercury's been moving forward and now backwards, and very soon next week forward in your opposite sign. Mercury now meeting the sun in your opposite sign while you are having an eclipse. This is really significant. This is really huge because it suggests that the true nature of a relationship, what it is that you actually want from this, and where it is that you know on some level, you know the direction this is going in. This is you getting really honest about it with yourself and finally being willing to have an important conversation as well. And now this conversation will either propel you towards that person that much more, or will allow you to make a healthy closure. A lot depends on what's been taking place up until now. A lot depends on your personal truth. Now, this plays out if you are in a partnership, in an established bond in this particular way. Some people will experience this within an established romantic bond. Others may experience this within a business partnership as well. Having those key conversations, having those important moments, ironing out details, all of that happening under this particular sky. Now, what you want to do, especially with this eclipse, is hold on to that truth that does come forward that you know about yourself, and allow that change to happen that is based on a new way and a shifting way that you are coming to understand yourself. So also, I do want to say, you know, as I like to say, I might have said this in the monthly horoscopes as well, you have Mercury right now going backwards in your opposite sign, okay? So when it is, when you have Mercury in a position like this, going backwards in your opposite sign, or going backwards in a sign that is in your element, and if a breakup occurs during that time, it tends not to stick. Okay, relationship decisions made at that time for you, for fire signs, and for people who are experiencing opposite sign Mercury retrogrades, it tends not to stick if a breakup occurs. So what I would advise you is be honest, right? Be forward, be open, look at what it is that's happening, allow that conversation to continue. But ultimately it is what comes forward now for you that allows you to ultimately say, this is who I am, and this is ultimately what it is that I need to bring closure to. And the moments that take place right about now, especially this week, you actually will be referencing as we move forward into next week, into later this month, when Mercury does go direct and Mercury does prepare to leave shadow as well in the month of October. Now, for those of you not in an established bond, this can work out in terms of also just your understanding of love and what love is going to mean to you, and the shifting understanding, the changing, the growing understanding of what love is going to mean to you now and as you move forward as well. What I really love about the sky for you is that it is about you. It is about honesty, and it is about stability. It is about you seeing how Saturn, now moved into a new sign, is there to work for you. It is there to your advantage. So how are you going to utilize Saturn to improve your circumstances? How are you going to utilize that Saturn to make you stronger and better and to move you towards greater self-respect? Well, more of that will be revealed with this eclipse. And this eclipse is a real game changer. Regardless of what game it is that you're playing, this is an eclipse that can help you to understand what game is worth playing and where it is now that you can make one of those checkmate moments that really stays with you and helps you to succeed for a very long time to come. Hello, fabulous Taurus. This week we have got the Sun and Mercury meeting in a part of the sky that has to do with the workplace. And you add to this eclipse that is one that is, yes, about bringing stability, but ultimately is one that's happening in a part of the sky for you that is very quiet, okay? So work is really going to be taking up a lot of your time, a lot of your energy as well. There may be parts of you or an aspect of you that feels very driven to make something happen for yourself, whether it's work related or otherwise, and you may not be able to put your finger on it. In fact, it might even be one of those things that you might not fully be conscious of as well. But I would say that if you feel it, go with it, run with it. It's very likely that you are going to be having conversations with people, but look, Mercury's retrograde right now, and conversations you have with people in the workplace, with supervisors, especially with coworkers as well. Look, I would really advise maybe don't talk about anything you don't want every single person to know. And also with this particular sky, one of the things also you do want to watch is the information that you are receiving. So if somebody is saying to you, you know, just hold back a little bit and then I'll give you a promotion, stuff like that. Mercury's retrograde. They may not have the power to actually do that. And while this is a good time to revisit terms or revisit projects that you did before or what was promised to you before as well, you do want to be mindful about making any kind of ultimatums unless you really are ready to stick with them fully. Now, this is true in terms of work and your professional relationships, but this is also true in other areas of life, including romance as well. And where it comes to romance, again, this is not, look, if you want to give an ultimatum, if you want to have one of those moments that's like, you know, we've been going in a certain way, but I want things to change directions. If you found yourself in a situation like that, this is when the restlessness or the dissatisfaction with something like that is likely to come forward. But realize that whatever choice you make, and especially if you're presenting somebody with the all or nothing option, things really could go either way in surprising ways as well. But do know that if you feel inspired, if you feel called on, if you feel that this is something that you need to do, that you need to declare, you need to say within an established bond or with someone that you're just getting to know right now, then there might be a part of you, and if you really are willing to say, look, is it going to be all or nothing? Or it might be you that's saying, look, maybe the other person is asking for the all or nothing thing, and you don't really see a future with this person. That is going to come forward in a very poignant moment as well. If you're open to meeting somebody new right now, I actually think that given the nature of this week, it's almost as if you may be drawn to a new person, but your reasoning, there'll be a part of you that's like, why am I into this person? This person is nothing like what I'm into normally. What is it? Why am I being so attracted? You may not be able to put your finger on it, but if the attraction comes, the feelings come, they may very well pass just as quickly as they arise. And finally, I do want to say, really, really important when we have an eclipse like this, pay attention to your dreams. Wherever it is that you have a desire, and a sincere desire at that, to create meaningful change that lasts in your life, go to bed with that intention to have that clarity. And it is going to be in that space with your own defenses and expectations down that you're very likely to get a clear message from the universe as to steps that you can take to make you feel that much more safe and secure in every aspect of your life. Hello, fabulous Gemini. This week we have got your ruling planet, retrograde, still retrograde. Your ruling planet will be meeting the sun in the sky. At the same time, we've got this eclipse happening that I spoke about in the monthly horoscopes, and that really is going to be the dominant energy for all of us, especially for anyone born in the last week of any month, and that includes of your sign as well. But what's really interesting about these various energies playing out is I think that if anyone is going to benefit from that burst of clarity, that whole other perspective, a conversation really being a big game changer, if you will, it is likely to be you. Now, because we have this particular Mercury retrograde happening in an air sign, okay, so this Mercury retrograde is happening in an air sign. So all air signs, if breakups happen, they're not likely to stick. So as I was explaining earlier to Aries, and maybe I didn't explain it very well, but essentially how it works is if there's a Mercury retrograde happening in a fellow element to you, or a Mercury retrograde happening in your opposite sign, and I've explained this in different videos, FAQ videos, informational videos as well, then it tends to represent an important need to reflect on major changes that you're going to make, especially where it comes to matters of heart. Now, this becomes especially amplified for you, given that it's your ruling planet, it's retrograde in fellow air sign Libra, and this week in particular is reaching the sun. So if there have been any kind of misunderstandings, if you're in an established bond or you're getting to know somebody, and especially for you, if you're getting to know someone, if there have been any misunderstandings as of late, this is going to bring that other perspective. This is going to bring that little burst of clarity that helps you to see things in a more balanced way, that helps you to see things maybe from their perspective as well. It could be that you have been making an assertion or you have been presented with a scenario and you have to think now, okay, what sense are we going to make of this? How are we going to go forward with this? Well, this will be the bright idea, right? Mercury's retrograde, so it will be an experiment, but really all of life is an experiment anyways as we are going along. But personally, the sky is going to speak to you in a few different ways this week as well. It has to do with, and particularly with this particular Mercury retrograde meeting the sun, this could be some news or furthering conversations around your children. If you're trying to figure out the best way for their education, in particular, if you have children and trying to find the right program for them, trying to find a way for them to receive the best educational process that they need, that they deserve, this can be a time when that conversation is made that much more further. In other news, the eclipse is happening in a part of the sky that has to do with friendship, okay? So it is friends that ultimately are going to be that voice of stability for you, especially where it comes to understanding another person that in some way you are aligned with. So if you're in a committed relationship or in some type of business partnership, go to your friends, okay, with trust and an open heart, someone you know that you can trust, and strive to get that other perspective, which ultimately will help bring greater stability and greater success to you and the people around you as well. Hello, fabulous Cancer. This week we have got a very interesting sky. We've got this eclipse happening now. Eclipses you feel more than other signs, right? Regardless of how this eclipse is speaking to you. As I spoke about in the introduction, the cardinal signs will really be feeling this impetus to make changes with this particular eclipse. And so you are a cardinal sign. Your sign, the first moment, the first day of your sign ushers in the first day of summer. And with this particular eclipse, it is going to speak to you in some really important ways and motivate you to make changes, particularly where it comes to matters of your career and matters of your goals, matters of understanding your life purpose, your direction, what it is that is worth achieving, and what it is ultimately that is going to matter to you most. And so there's a real sense of progress, a real sense of direction, and a real sense of motivation taking place right about now with this eclipse. Ultimately, it does look like the changes that you do end up making, the insights that you are having, will in some way also speak to the work itself, the work that you are doing. And so this could be, you know, I gotta say, this could be like if you've been waiting to hear back, if you've been sort of feeling like you've been kind of left in the wind and waiting to hear and wanting something, but it seems like nothing's really solid, nothing's really secure. This could bring with it that answer that you've been waiting for. But for others, I mean, if you've been looking for a big break, this could be that very big break. Now, Mercury's retrograde, okay? Also in a cardinal sign as well. And so because of that, things may change, but they actually may change to your advantage, okay? So just keep that in mind, that some of the details will still need to be worked out. But wherever it is, if you've been trying to go for something big, go for a goal, right? Whatever that may be, if it's meaningful to you, if it matters to you, this is going to be a time when you make tremendous progress in that regard. And those of you born in the very last week of the month, but particularly the last month of June, are going to be feeling this energy that much more importantly and that much more personally as well. So the goal will be particularly important to you, and the breakthrough will be that much more powerful and meaningful as well. So this is an eclipse that really is meant to bring you into alignment on one level. It depends on the kind of person you are, right? At one level, it will bring you into alignment with a real sense of purpose, a real sense of direction, of life purpose as well. A real sense that your life is headed where it was always supposed to be going. If you have been dissatisfied in a given situation, this is going to be you admitting it to yourself and very likely doing the things you need to make a change. Now, if there's a small percentage of you out there who seem not to like the changes that happen, don't worry about a thing. Don't worry about a thing, because things will work very, very much to your advantage. So changes happening on the work front, the career front. Some people are going to experience this much more literally, where all of a sudden it could be a female boss in particular who leaves the picture, who leaves where you're working, and that ultimately ends up creating greater stability in some ways for you. Or it actually could be that you are the one who decides to leave or has to leave a given situation. And understand, again, this will help you land on top. So don't you worry, all will be well. And the changes that take place now, you will ultimately be grateful for in the bigger picture. Now, where it comes to love, I gotta say, a lot of the sky this week is speaking a lot more to matters of home, matters that are more personal. And so, in a way, it's like your element is being spoken to. And whenever we have an eclipse, as I said, you feel the eclipses more than the other signs might. And so when we have an eclipse, it does tend to bring with it, for you especially, a rise of emotion. What are you really feeling? You know, what are you really feeling around a given situation? How comfortable are you with it? How okay are you with it? So wherever it has been that maybe you haven't wanted to look at it, this is going to be a time when that emotion comes to the surface. But there's a real desire on your part to create stability. So whether it has to do with a past situation that you now need to more fully understand, that possibility certainly is there to more fully understand what took place in the past. Also, whether it has to do with a current situation as well, this is going to be your chance to get some really powerful insights that tell you what it is that is feeling not right to you, what it is that's feeling not acceptable to you. And that acknowledgement alone can start a powerful process of change that does lead you to greater love and a greater understanding of the love that you have and the love that you certainly are moving towards. Hello, fabulous Leo. This week represents a really important turning point for you, as it does for all fire signs, positive turning points. And that's because we have an eclipse taking place in fellow fire sign Aries. So this eclipse is speaking in supreme harmony with Saturn. If you were born in the very last week of July, you will be benefiting from this eclipse most, but everyone out there, every Leo out there will find benefit with this particular move of a lunar eclipse. This brings with it a healthy ending. This brings with it an ending that is measured and that is based in an honest evaluation of where you are right now and why and what is the best move forward. But there's another element to this as well, which has to do with understanding what it is that must change if you are going to feel a greater sense of, yes, on the one hand, stability, but also, on the other hand, self-respect as well. There's a strong grounding element to this, and a grounding element that ultimately allows you to reach out for the stars, reach the moon, and reach wherever you want that much more. Particularly, and this applies particularly if you are one of those people who is, in a foreign land. If you're going to school, or you actually have been dealing with some kind of immigration issues or trying to get immigration or figure out what part that's going to play in your future, this is when some good news should find you. This is when some stability should find you as well. So it looks like it's almost like a long drawn out process is finally over and finally allows you to feel that much more secure in exactly where you are right now. If you are in school right now, again, this can represent a healthy ending. So for some people, right now might be the time that they're seeing the end in sight. You might be changing majors, or you might actually be understanding how this is time to prepare for the next thing or the next move that is to come up further down the road. I really love this week for you because ultimately this is about understanding that what you have known before and the options you've allowed yourself before ultimately are not as much as what could be for you. So there's a real sense of possibility and a real sense of momentum that things can get better, particularly when it comes to understanding that life is an adventure and claiming that adventure for yourself. Saturn is being activated by this particular eclipse, and Saturn has recently changed signs into fellow fire sign. Now for a good long stay, right? You got a little break there in the summer, now a good long stay. This eclipse is going to give you that little bit of a glimpse and really help you to understand how this placement ultimately is meant to help you and to better your life. And it is in some way directly connected to your willingness to know more, to be more, to learn more, to explore more than you have known before. Also, with this particular eclipse, and particularly how it's speaking with Saturn, this is going to be a time when I think there is going to be some decisions made, possibly some legal decisions taking place around whether it's children. This could be like a custody case being decided finally and fairly as well, coming to a closure very quickly. Or also if it has to do with, again, it's a lunar eclipse, so it has to do with closure. It has to do with allowing things to have a healthy ending, particularly with this Saturn. And so if it is a relationship, in particular, if it is a relationship that at one time was sort of like a legal partnership, if you will, professional or love-wise, this can be a time where very quickly issues are resolved and all matters are able to come to a close. Now, do remember that we still have Mercury retrograde meeting the Sun this week. So there may be some sort of paperwork that comes up, And this particular conversation is happening in a part of the sky for you that has to do with paperwork and agreements. So there may still be some refinements that have to take place. But really, if you've been in any kind of situation that feels like it's been carrying on for a while, this is that window. This is that opportunity to bring things to a close. And for some of you out there, this could also be a legal opportunity as well, where it comes to having a settlement of any kind related to love, related to relationships and partnerships, children, or otherwise, where the universe is going to grant you some kind of a windfall, if you will. Even if it seems small, I'll be honest with you, it's fair. And so, given this sky, my advice really would be to grab it and to run with it to your advantage. Because if you don't, then things are going to be drawn out that much longer, especially given that Saturn, now in Sagittarius, is soon going to start having some really interesting conversations with Neptune, with Jupiter. I'll be here to talk about it as we're going along. But particularly considering that that's going to define a lot of the coming months, what is probably good is to try to avoid settling things then. So if you get that opportunity now, take care of it now. Even if it's just a personal agreement that you're trying to make with a person, even with Mercury retrograde, reach out, try to make it happen now, because you've got so much support to have what ultimately will be a closure that you know on some level is right, is fair, and what will now allow you the stability to go out there in the world, will allow you now to embrace more of life as a greater adventure, and a greater adventure beyond that as well. Now, where it comes to love, as I said, if you are looking at a past love situation, bringing that to a close, this is when things start to happen more equitably, okay? So you may get that option very quickly. If you're currently in a relationship, I think that talking things out is going to be really the big theme, and conversations might not necessarily be so clear. So just be mindful of that. It could be that your partner is saying something and you're wondering about it, and so you have that conversation to get that clarity. You know, communication is an interesting thing. On the one hand, yes, it's infinite. And a part of what makes communication infinite is that there's always a way to interpret it differently. And there's always a way in one moment to recall what it was that you communicated, or communication that reached you. You read, you heard, you talked, you listened. Something from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 40 years ago. It can come up again in the perfect moment and make all the difference. It is always with you. Every bit of information you've ever been exposed to is always, always with you. And so right about now, it does look like, because there's an air of conversation and yet confusion, wanting clarity, and yet sort of recalling things and saying, well, wait a minute, I remember when we had discussed this. I remember when we talked about that. And now you're seeing things in a different light. Now you're interpreting things differently. So this ultimately does suggest that you want to go with the process and understand that there are many levels of interpretation. So my advice would be, allow a little bit of leeway, allow a little bit of benefit of the doubt to a person, especially if you're in a committed partnership with them, or even if you're just dating them. Allow them that little bit of leeway and that benefit of doubt that they may appreciate. But this could also be, if you are open to meeting someone new, this can also be having a very interesting interaction with someone brand new who shows up, possibly online, and interacting on that level, that allows you to glimpse something into who you are and what you're believing about yourself, and ultimately what it is that you believe about love. That really is key, because when you get clear about what you believe, then you can decide to change your beliefs that much more consciously and make sure they align with that higher vision. Make sure they align with the future that you know you deserve. Hello, fabulous Virgo. This week we have an eclipse. So this will officially bring to end eclipse season right off the top of the week. And so 2 weeks ago, we had an eclipse taking place in your sign. So there was lots happening, lots changing for you, fresh, bright, new beginnings. It was a very, very exciting time, very rewarding time in some ways as well. A lot of Virgos out there were noticing a shift. For some, it was very personal. For others, it was in their lives. Things were changing, but ultimately things were moving in a positive direction. I, for one, was very excited about that eclipse, certainly did enjoy it as well, and saw Virgos around me because, in all honesty, I'm surrounded by Virgos. Absolutely love Virgos. But I love people of every sign, to be honest with you guys. I have amazing people in my life, an abundance of love and friendships, professional and personal as well, and a really good, good representation of the entire sky there. But having said that, I see and I saw Virgos personally feeling like good things were happening, good things were starting, good things were changing, and ultimately having that deepening sense that in some key ways, dreams can come true, life can begin again, and you can always have that fresh start and that fresh perspective that empowers you and that makes you better. So that happened 2 weeks ago, and it ushered in a phase where you were in that process already. And this eclipse that takes place now effectively brings that sort of period to a close. It brings it to a healthy end. And with this particular eclipse, I actually think, as I see this idea of endings, this idea of understanding what you're okay with letting go, what you now are ready to accept, you can change so that you can welcome in the new. This process, this conscious process of your choosing is taking place for you right now. But also, on a very literal level, with the eclipse taking place this week, there's a very strong financial element to this eclipse as well. And so this could be a time when, if you have been looking at anything like grants, loans, bursaries, insurance payments, tax return payments, inheritances, if there's anything that's felt a little caught up or a little bogged down even with paperwork, if you have been feeling that you wish that your finances would flow a little bit easier, whether it is this type of money that's coming from other sources, or even just the money that you're earning and how it is that you're going to go about earning the money that you desire, how it is that you're going to create greater abundance for yourself, that really is going to be a very dominant theme throughout this week. So with this eclipse, some money should find you. And it should find you either this week or into next week as well. And what I do really like about what is playing out with this is that it ultimately seems, and the big theme with this eclipse, and I think for every sign out there, the big theme with this eclipse is that it is fair. There is a real sense of a balanced perspective that what is happening is fair, is just, is not something that's extremely on one side versus another, but rather takes different perspectives into consideration, and that involves possibly a measure of negotiation as well. So if there's anything that you've been applying for and just trying to create abundance for yourself in any way possible, this is a week when you should notice a lot of progress taking place and the real opportunity to secure some financial abundance for yourself. Where it comes to money that you make just by working, right, like a salary, this is going to be a time there might be some conversations or connections that ultimately will lead you to greater prosperity, or at least, at the very least, keep you busy right about now. I do want to give you a little bit of a heads up. Yes, that eclipse period might be over, but next week, a lot of really great things start to happen for you, as I will speak about in the October horoscopes. So the October horoscopes will be available on the last day of September. I know you guys love to have them early. I'm sorry about that, as I spoke about in the introduction, but by the last day of the month, they should be up. And I'll discuss all the wonderful things that much more, but I did want to give you a little bit of a heads up so that you utilize this time well, because next week the energy really starts to shift, whereas now there is going to be a measure of you having to make some decisions from a place of detachment. Next week, we start this whole other energy where you've got heart on your sleeve, and you are just the receiver of some wonderful, whether you want to call them gifts, abundance, emotional abundance, and practical abundance as well. So have those conversations now. Be busy right now. Do what you need to do, because in some ways you are wrapping up some extended cycles that have been going on, several cycles that have been going on. And then next week we'll really feel like the full benefit of that eclipse that took place 2 weeks ago finally and more fully reaches you. In love, I think that this is more of a time of a regroup that's happening right about now. Next week, Venus enters your sign and love becomes that much more easily available to you in every sense of the word. And so where it comes to love this week, it seems to me that you're going to be quite busy. And so if you are with somebody, you're going to have to find a way to balance that. You might feel a little bit like, oh, I'm not able to talk to you as much as I'd like because I'm busy doing my work-related, money-related stuff. If you are open to meeting somebody new right about now, your best bet really is to stay occupied in your money-making endeavors. And it is through that good things, including some really cool connections, are likely to find you. Hello, fabulous Libra. This week we have got Mercury retrograde in your sign meeting the sun yet again. So Mercury retrograde in your sign meets the sun. This to me does suggest sort of one of those what's coined a light bulb moment, if you will. So this to me is one of those light bulb moments, one of those moments of awarenesses, one of those moments that makes you say, oh wow, okay, I get it, I'm understanding. One of those moments that makes you see yourself differently. When Mercury retrogrades in your own sign, it is a time when you are considering and thinking about what really matters, what's really important differently. There's a level of self-examination taking place when Mercury enters your sign and retrogrades in particular in your sign. So this is one of those moments of clarity where you come to a deepening understanding of who it is that you are and who it is that you truly desire to be, that you know is within you to be. Now keep in mind, because Mercury is retrograde, there might be a part of you that's all brainstorming, a part of you that wants to do a whole bunch of things, a part of you that might be making plans. Be flexible, because Mercury's retrograde and plans that we make around a Mercury retrograde don't always stick. However, you've got lots and lots of cosmic support to make amazing progress happen for you, to make a forward progression take place for you as well. But ultimately, as you know, it's been said, change begins within. It's you that needs to change so that you can experience more positive changes in the world. Well, that is especially emphasized right about now with this Mercury retrograde meeting the sun in your sign. We've also got an eclipse happening in your opposite sign. This is huge, an eclipse in your opposite sign. This is huge where it comes to love. And I spoke about this in the monthly horoscope for September. And this particular move really has to do with wanting a love that is stable and secure and making a choice right about now in terms of a deepening appreciation of where you are right now and what needs to happen if you're going to move towards the type of connection you want. Now, for some people, this may be a healthy closure, okay? So with you, along with your opposite sign, Aries, this period of time can suggest a healthy closure taking place where it comes to a key committed relationship. So whether that's closure along a particular situation, whether that's closure along sort of an issue that the two of you have been dealing with together, trying to figure out how to move forward, or whether that's just the relationship itself, you will know what is healthy. You will know what is right for you. You will know what is mature for you. With this particular eclipse, it really is about accepting what you feel around partnership and around love. So some of you may experience this not necessarily in a committed relationship, but in a business relationship as well. If there's a need to be honest, if there's a need to bring issues up and to talk about things in a mature way, this will be that very opportunity. It will either solidify and make that much stronger the bond you have with this person, romantic or business, or it'll take you in new directions. For those of you who are open to meeting somebody new or even just dating somebody, when we have an eclipse in the opposite sign, somebody does show up so that you can have an understanding of what's happening with you in terms of love and your expectations of love as well. So this is going to be one of those very important moments that allows you to look at yourself. But what I really love is that process of self-examination, of looking at yourself, ultimately is going to allow you to change your perspective. And that powerful shift in perspective is actually something that you're likely to be working on for a while, but you know this needs to happen if you are going to move towards greater love, and a greater love that you know in your heart that you truly deserve. Hello, fabulous Scorpio. This week, we have got an eclipse taking place and a part of the sky for you that has to do with the workplace. So if anybody is going to notice big changes happening on the work front, in the workplace, it is you. So this could be, and this, all the water signs out there will be having, with their own different subtleties, will be experiencing changes and shifts, whether it's related to career or work or money. For you in particular, it is related to work, the actual work that you're doing. You know, I like to call it the 10,000 hours principle. Well, I didn't call it that. Malcolm Gladwell called it that in his book Outliers. But I like to think of this part of the sky as covering or speaking to what is it that is worth you giving your 10,000 hours to. And this looks like a time when things are going to be changing in the workplace, without a doubt. And so it could be that a coworker, someone who is your equal, not likely a supervisor, but someone who is in some way your equal, leaves the workplace, and it looks like you're happy for them. Probably has been a while coming. So there should be some news along those lines, but this could also be your roles changing as well. And for a small percentage of you, I actually think that you are going to be feeling in some way ready to move on, especially if you're in a situation that has to do with a day job. So if you're in a situation where you know, this is my day job, this isn't what I'm really about or what I really want to do, if you know you're not passionate about it, this is getting more clear as to what is actually worth your very valuable energy and what do you want to give your energy to. So with that greater clarity, you are better able to move forward and better able to have that deepening understanding as to what it is you actually really do want to do. So the closures that are taking place right now, for a small percentage of you Scorpios out there, you may experience this particular eclipse related to a health matter. And this really can be a wonderful turnaround taking place for you, okay? This to me does suggest that if there's been any kind of health issue there, you get the answers that you need, you find the support that you need, the right expert that you need, and very well may experience the end of, if it was, whether it was confusion or whether it has been an actual problem that you've been experiencing on a health level. This is the time when you find the right answer. And if you've been looking for a new doctor, yes, Mercury is retrograde, okay? It is retrograde, I know. And yet, I do think that you are now entering a period that if you do want to have a new doctor, if you do want to bring a relationship with one doctor to an end and find somebody who actually might be able to help you better, you've got lots and lots of cosmic support to make that happen. In fact, I actually think that there's going to be some of you out there who, like, sort of by accident, by revelation, stumble upon the right answer for you. So it might be that a doctor gives you some medication for something else and you take it, and all of a sudden you realize that you can feel a lot different and you can feel a lot better. It's like you didn't know that you weren't feeling great until you started taking this medication. So it could be an answer along those lines, or it could be just you coming across the information, like, you know, searching the net, and all of a sudden you see an article and you see yourself and you realize, wow, that's what's been going on with me, and now I know what to do. So if there's any answers that you've been seeking where it comes to taking the best of care of you and feeling the best that you can, this week you've got lots of cosmic support to make that happen for yourself. Where it comes to love in this given week, you know, a lot of the energy this week is taking place in parts of the sky that ultimately are in some ways quiet, okay? So we've got this Mercury retrograde meeting the sun happening in a part of the sky for you that is the quietest part of your sky. So it is basically about what's happening on unconscious levels. Your dream world is about to get really active and really, really busy. I do want to just give you a little bit of heads up with this. This is really, I mean, you know, if there's anything that you know, every Scorpio loves a good secret. They can keep the secret, but also there's a part of you that you know you want to keep close, right? That is yours. And I think that this is actually true for all the fixed signs out there. So all the fixed signs in some way have some part of themselves that they want to keep for themselves. It's like an independent spirit, if you will. So they manifest it in different ways and with different motivations. But if you are one of those people that has something that you know you're holding back, this is a time, and I'm always going to be honest with you, right? This is a time when you've got to be a little bit careful. Be careful about gossip that is happening without your knowledge. Be careful about your actions as well, particularly where it comes to something that you do, something you enjoy, something that's all yours, that you don't necessarily want coming out for whatever reasons. Maybe you just don't want people, you think people might not understand, or that's just something that you like knowing is for you. Whatever that may be, hold on to that. I would advise maybe taking a little bit of extra caution, if you will, if it really is something that you need to keep very close to heart. And also just being mindful of what's going on around you as well, in terms of who's paying attention and who isn't, and who's saying what and why. Because it does look like, because of this particular sky, I mean, I just look at this and it's like, you might be spotted almost, right? And it might not even be that big a deal, but it just ends up being fodder for gossip that either you would not like, or maybe somebody close to you that you love, that you respect, it would not be so great for them. So just be aware. That's really all it comes down to. Where it comes to love in particular, okay? If you are in an established bond, this is a time when you might say something like completely unconsciously or like in your sleep that could be interpreted a lot of different ways, in some ways not to your advantage. So be really mindful of that. Be careful of that as well. I know you don't have a lot of control when you are sleeping, so strive to like really talk it out during the day when you're awake. Talk about the things that need to be discussed. If there's anything you feel that like sort of is the elephant in the room, this is the time to bring it forward, and it will represent sort of an ongoing conversation. Conversely, your partner might actually bring something that is the elephant in the room to your attention, and a part of you might not want to have that conversation, but the moment is asking you to step up and do that. For those of you who are just getting to know somebody or open to meeting someone new, you know, this particular sky just being so related to like work and your day-to-day life, and so related to like how your duties are changing so that ultimately you're moving towards financial stability. With all of that, you know, I actually think that next week we're going to have a lot more sort of harmonious things taking place that are going to help you a lot more. But one really good thing about what's happening this week for you in love is like sort of endings beginning, okay? So what is happening is next week, not only will Mercury go direct, but at the same time, Venus will leave shadow. And so this is sort of the last week, that last stretch of this extended Venus retrograde season that we've been going through. So consider some of the lessons, some of the learning that has been coming up for you, okay? And really pay attention to your life this week and next as well, because events that happen now will bring closure, will bring culmination, and will bring answers to questions and to considerations that actually came up months ago, particularly in late June. So wherever it is that you need further answers and further closures in the concept of love, or in your experiences related to love and relationships, and how are people feeling around you, and are you picking up on the right signals or not? Well, starting right about now, that is slowly but surely going to start to become clearer and clearer to you. Hello, fabulous Sagittarius. This week we have got an eclipse taking place in a part of the sky for you that has to do with fun and flirtation, fertility and children, and also any games of chance, whether it's taking a chance or a gamble on a dream, or actually going to the casino, or actually buying a lottery ticket. This is the part of the sky that is highlighted for you now. Now, what's interesting to me about this eclipse is that it is speaking in supreme harmony with Saturn now in your sign. And that Saturn is going to stay in your sign right to the very end of 2017, so for a good long stay. And those of you born in the very last week of November are going to feel this energy that much more, but everyone of your sign will be feeling the benefits of this eclipse, especially because this eclipse is happening in fellow fire sign Aries, and again, speaking to Saturn in your sign. So we have this eclipse taking place. I look at this and I think that this is going to be, you know, a little conservative, okay? So I don't see like this wild, you taking a chance sort of out of nowhere. It looks like a calculated risk that you are making at this time. So in a very calculated way, you are deciding how it is that you are going to move forward, and how it is that you are going to sort of move your pieces on the proverbial chessboard. Okay, so this is really you looking at where is it that you could now start to make a significant and yet subtle and intelligent and well thought out and mature and actually very adult decision that you know in some way is going to help you to experience greater possibilities in terms of love, yes, but also in terms of children that you might want to have or that you might have right now, and in terms of manifesting wild gains as well. So let's take it a little bit one at a time. I do want to say that with this particular eclipse, I think if you have children, you are going to, it's almost as if they find the help that they need, okay? So they're going to find whatever answer, whatever help. A really supportive teacher could show up at this time that you feel a connection with as well. This can also be, and this can also represent, if you want to have children, this can represent finding the right answer, finding the right solutions as well. And if you have been one of those people who's wanted to have children, has been trying to figure out how to do it, or maybe it hasn't been working out as much, this week should provide you with some answers so that you can now understand better how you're going to go forward. I have a feeling, like especially with Mercury retrograde playing out, it could be a second opinion that shows up for you now. It could be a second round of testing that happens for you now that ultimately ends up helping you in your dream of having a child, if that is how this energy manifests for you. And where it comes to love, you know, this is going to be a time of making a smart decision around that as well. If you've just been dating somebody or getting to know somebody, or someone's been there in your sphere and you kind of like them, but you know, you're not really sure, or you're just open to meeting somebody new, it's like a very key piece of information falls into place now for you. And as this information falls into place, you start to have a deepening understanding and a deepening respect for who this person is and where it is that maybe you were filling in some holes there. So this is going to allow you to at least be more honest with yourself, about who you've been drawn to and why, and how now you want to move forward. When Saturn is in your sign, you are unlikely to make decisions that are based on sort of what you want right now. The decisions you make tend to be more measured. They tend to be and have a quality to them that is based on what it is ultimately and where it is ultimately that you most desire to go in the bigger picture. And so if anybody doesn't fit that, if you know that someone is kind of fly by night, or someone is, not the kind of person that you really think as you're looking at them, that this is somebody that you would, if you don't see yourself like really growing old with this person, then this might be better to sort of, say, okay, I'm going to gently go my own way or go another direction. For those of you who are in an established bond, again, the children question might be part of how the relationship is playing out, but also conversations around whether or not children is something that you want. Is that meant to manifest? Is it going to manifest? So that can be part of the conversation as well. But also what I find really interesting about this, especially where it comes to established relationships, is that there's an understanding with this particular eclipse taking place where you are seeing or appreciating where matters of the heart are and where matters of the long term and the more practical matters of being with this person are as well. So where it is that maybe you feel like if the relationship is not on equal footing for some reason, or if you feel that while you've gotten into the situation and you're with this person, that there are elements lacking that you really feel are part of a more stable future for yourself in love, that will begin to be discussed. You will start to consider that. You will start to see greater evidence of that as well. But the opposite could also be true. If you look at this person and you see how this person can make your life that much more joyous, that much more fun, it will be your doubt that comes to a close now. What I really love about this week for you is the chance for things to change dramatically and very much in your favor. Be smart about it, right? This isn't necessarily a time, if $10,000 is a lot of money to you, because money is relative, it's completely relative. But one person thinks of $10,000 the same way that another person thinks of $10, right? Depending on your reality, depending on your experiences, depending on where you are with your relationship with money and with your current reality and prosperity and abundance and all of that, your experiences, your childhood, everything kind of jumbles together to determine how it is that you are evaluating and finding meaning out of what is essentially a number, right? The number itself is simply a figure, but the emotion that you attach to it, according to how attainable you think a thing is, you want to watch that, because this is not necessarily the time to take a big risk to say, okay, if $10,000 is a lot of money to you, then you might not want to take $10,000 to the casino. However, if for you $5 is no big deal, then that should be what it is that you're placing your bet on. So there's a need for you to evaluate ultimately what value you are giving and what it is that you're betting. And if it is that you can make that bet from a place of inner security, you're not likely to go all wild out right about now. And that's probably a really good thing. Hello, fabulous Capricorn. This week, we have got an eclipse happening at the very bottom of your sky. This has to do with matters of home. This has to do with matters of family of origin. At the same time, we've got this Mercury retrograde meeting the sun in the sky. So these two placements are happening simultaneously. So this is speaking to you reconsidering or reconnecting to key figures that you believe are part of where it is that you desire to go, and especially in terms of your career goals. But at the same time, it may be in a very quick moment that family is asking for your attention. For all of a sudden, you have to be at home, okay? Proverbial home or your literal home. You have to pay attention to what's happening at the home front. So this might be while you are sort of, whether you're renegotiating with somebody or reconnecting with somebody, trying to further a conversation, trying to further an agreement or contract of some sort with a person related to the direction in which you desire to go, where it comes to your goals. At the same time, it can be almost like this, okay, this is where I'm going, this is where I want to be, but then all of a sudden, okay, you get that call and it's like, you got to come home. You got to be home. And it could be just a thing that takes place for a day, or it could be a little bit more extended period as well for some of you out there. So it might be that home involves taking a flight, right? Home might be, okay, I've got to travel, I've got to be there. But it also just might be, you've got to be home because somebody is showing up right about now. And then that ends up in some way interrupting the flow of that meeting, that reconnection, that renegotiation that you are trying to make happen. My advice would be, as I look at that, is to trust your circumstances, okay? Because sometimes if you are feeling really motivated to do something and you want to push something, but then all of a sudden the universe says, nope, you got to go this way. Even if you're only going that way for a few minutes or a couple of hours, or you got to go that way for a week or two or more. When we have situations like that come up, it tends to speak to how things are ultimately going to work into your advantage in the bigger picture of your life. So this is something that you want to be mindful of as well. If all of a sudden you got called away from a renegotiation that you think is going really well, that little break might be exactly what you need to get a fresh perspective and to get some fresh insights into how it is that it actually is going. Because in the moment, you might not necessarily realize what's happening. That tends to happen with a Mercury retrograde. So you may need that moment away so that the light bulb can come on for you a little bit and go, oh, okay, that's what they were trying to say. That's what they're trying to agree to. That's what it is that they really want. These are the types of clarities that you are likely to find when you give yourself that moment to be away when called away. So matters of home are going to call to your attention, in some cases very quickly, but it looks healthy, it looks good, and it looks like ultimately this is going to be something that gives you a sense of peace, that gives you a sense of calm as well. And you know, I'm always honest with you, of course. This could be, in all honesty, ultimately this is going to be good news, right? The help that they need is there, but there might be some concern that arises among a parent. For a few of you out there, a small number of you might find that a parent, one of your parents or main maternal figure, paternal figure, needs some hospitalization. But it looks like healthy and good resolutions come about with that. As I said, that leads to ultimate calm on your part. There is something in you that will know that this is right, this is good, and this is going to lead to the help that is needed. But also, on another hand, I got to tell you, this could be like people of, you know, your home wanting to crash at your place and you knowing that it's the right thing to do, and a part of you is okay with it, and another part of you is maybe going to be counting the days and counting the moments until they leave. Where it comes to love, again, it's the home front that matters most. It's what's happening on very private moments that matter most. So if you're in an established bond, I just see you wanting to spend lots of alone time with this person. Like, okay, I am with you, you are it, this is good. And having that peace and quiet with this person, developing a connection with them that isn't necessarily intellectual, isn't necessarily talking about things, but just being with each other and finding a sense of comfort and peace in that. And for others of you, if you are open to meeting somebody new, I actually think that next week, some really good things are happening. We're in the final stretch of Venus, the Venus shadow, if you will. So this is more time when things are wrapping up, and we get you to next week, and I'll be here to talk about it then, of course. And Venus ends shadow, and we'll move into a very supportive placement for you to enhance the love you have or to attract the love that you want. Hello, fabulous Aquarius. This week we have got this Mercury retrograde meeting the Sun happening in fellow air sign Libra. And at the same time, we have got an eclipse taking place in fire sign Aries. And so this, to me, as I look at this, I actually think this eclipse is going to bring up some conversation, some agreement. This really has to do with a matter that's felt like it's sort of been in the air, and when am I going to hear back from this person? When is this deal, right? The deal, when is the deal going to move forward? This is going to be things starting to work in your favor so that you can start to feel like, okay, now we're moving towards some solid agreements that ultimately are going to take your message, whether it's literally or figuratively, in some way, the conversations, the connections, the furtherance of the information that finds you now in some way will allow you to know more, and to know more whether it's of philosophical matters, know more on a level of mind, but also to know more on a level of just your experience with the world and being out there in more of the world, whether practically it has to do with travel or whether it has to do with you doing something that more people are now going to know of and now going to see. So there's developments on these fronts taking place, and I think that this is going to represent an important moment for you where you start to see and you start to understand how what is taking place now is a part of the larger blessings that Saturn and Sagittarius is going to grant you. So in your own unique way, in your own unique path on this journey, as Saturn begins to move through the sign of Sagittarius, you are going to get a powerful glimpse into how this is going to benefit your life, how you are going to be able to attract people, align with people that ultimately are going to allow you to expand your perspective that much more. What I really like about this placement for you as well is there is a very social quality to it. And so if there's anybody who needs to get out of the house and be active and meet friends and connect with other people, it really is you. And so be busy, especially in the early part of the week. Reconnect with others. This Mercury retrograde happening in fellow air sign does suggest, and meeting the Sun does suggest, that the conversations that allow you renewed awarenesses that ultimately can change your perspective in dramatic ways and important ways, and really help you to cultivate a greater sense of not only your place in the world, but also what impact you can make and how better to make an impact as well. So be social, be active, be out there, be busy. I think that it is, if ever, talking that changed everything, a conversation that changed everything. This is the week that could actually happen for you. Even just little coffee dates is really all you need to utilize this energy to your advantage. But overall, lots of progress taking place on this front. If you're involved in any kind of media, or you want any kind of media attention, if you're involved in any type of communicative field at all, where you're sharing something about what you know, or you're sharing words, or you're sharing thoughts, this week you have so much support to make that go so far for you. Where it comes to love, Aquarius, this week, we've got such a focus happening on social situations that if you are hoping to meet somebody new, it really is going to be that those connections happen through other people. And so make sure that you are, again, spending time with people, because ultimately they are going to facilitate connections that are possible for you now. If you are with someone or you're getting to know someone, then this is going to be a time when you're learning that much more and you're having that many more conversations as well. Now, you do want to watch, because this Mercury retrograde is taking place in fellow air sign, you do want to watch that you're not misinterpreting anything, okay? So you might think that things are not as great, or you might have been thinking that things are not as great or not as strong as they actually are, well, this is going to allow you a chance with Mercury meeting the Sun to actually address some of those issues that you may have been feeling. And for a lot of you, I do think, again, if you're in an established bond or you're getting to know somebody, some of your impressions might not necessarily be accurate. So what tends to calm the waters more than anything is asking, finding out, seeking to know how it is ultimately that things are, what it is that the other person is feeling. It's such a great time to ask those key questions, also about what they believe, what their values are, what they really want, where they're really going. And that in turn will allow you to see if they fit into the bigger picture of your life. Not necessarily a time to make a decision about whether or not this is going to work for you. While for other signs, yes, there is that factor there. But for you, not necessarily that time. You do want to pace yourself a little bit, give it a little bit more time, and I think you are going to find that slowly but surely the answers, the information, and just knowing this person that much more deeply so that you can understand what part of your present and if they're meant to play a part of your future or not, all of that will eventually, in the weeks to come, become that much clearer for you. Hello, fabulous Pisces. This week, we have got an eclipse taking place in the part of the sky that has to do with the money you're making. This has to do with salary. This has to do with sort of the day in and day out thing that you do to make sure that your bills get paid, that money comes in, so that the money that needs to go out ends up being balanced, or that there's a boost, right? So that you have some money to actually do whatever you want with it, to enjoy your life, to be fluid. So when an eclipse like this happens, it can suggest a change in a source of income, at least one source of income that ultimately is a part of the bigger picture for your life, and you know it. So when I see something like this, it's not going to be likely that you're going to make choices right about now based on the money that you are getting. And, I think about how sometimes, my mom likes to say, when it rains, it pours. And that doesn't just mean for bad stuff. She didn't mean it that way. She means it in a good way. Like when good things are coming, they tend to come in groups, like all kinds of good things start finding you. And you get to make a choice, which option is better for you than another. With this particular eclipse, it's almost as if I'm seeing you will have sort of a choice to make where it comes to where your money is going to come from, or how you're going to balance where your money is coming from now with where it is that you would like it to come from. For some of you, there is going to be a decision to be made where, on the one hand, I'm seeing you say to yourselves, okay, I want work that feels rewarding, that feels satisfying. I want to be happy with the way that my money is being made. And I want to make my money in a way that fits in with my larger goals. And then there's this other part of you that may be like, I want to make as much money as possible. Now, keep in mind, it's a Mercury retrograde. So if you make any kind of really consequential decision, chances are more will be revealed as time goes on. But also that if you end up making a decision that doesn't feel as right for you, you can change your mind. You may be able to actually go back and change things up, or at least adjust things, tweak things, so that they match where it is that you truly desire to go. What's really great about how this particular week is playing out for you in light of this eclipse is that the financial changes that are taking place are meant to lead you in a direction of greater success, really establishing yourself in a big way, in a more important way as well, and actually doing something that you really can be proud of, that allows you to feel like you are living in alignment with purpose, but also that you are making your money while living in alignment with purpose. And that isn't always about a particular number, and that isn't always about you making a certain amount of money. Sometimes the job that comes with a lot more money is, and some place inside of you knows that that is not going to take you in the direction that you truly desire to go. But ultimately, the direction that you desire to go might start off with less money, but in the bigger picture, you know, it'll pay off even better as part of the bigger picture of your life. So this is something I'm seeing you having to think about, address, weigh, and a part of needing to do this is likely to be because some tangible opportunities in terms of how you're making your money are likely to arise now. We also have Mercury retrograde happening and meeting the sun. And so if you've been in any talks, trying to reach any kind of settlements from grants or loans or bursaries or insurance payments, inheritances, tax returns, commission payments as well, trying to get money for work you did way back when, trying to get some sort of you know, alimony and things like that, support payments. This is a time when that conversation might further. But Mercury is retrograde, so decisions made now, okay? A lot of promises might be made, things might be said, there might be some talks, it might be like, oh yeah, for sure, we can do that, let's make that happen. But there's some details that might not be completely addressed in this particular moment. So allow the conversation, and allow the conversation to be respectful, of course, and measured. Do what's in front of you to do. Take the time. The way that this can actually negate a little bit is if this has to do with money, that almost like you are like renewing a document, or having to go back and address something that had come up before that now is reaching an expiration date, now needs your attention. So if it has to do with renegotiating terms or renewing a document, that kind of stuff, okay, is good under Mercury retrograde. That kind of stuff is blessed. But still, make sure you're watching the details. Make sure everything is crystal clear as you are moving forward in ultimately a matter that seems to matter to you related to your abundance. In the realm of love this week, you know, I think that this can be a time when, if you are in an established bond, this is a time when your spouse's income, there might be some issues around that, okay? So things will work out, okay? But I think, I mean, I just look at this, if you're in a committed bond, your spouse might get some news around money. They might be elated. They might be thinking they're getting a raise or some great opportunity has showed up for them that's going to lead to greater prosperity. But just advise them to the best of your ability, because people are going to do what they want to do. Advise them to pace themselves, okay? Because some really great financially related news might come in, but the reality might end up being a little bit different, or might end up being a whole lot of more work than they're actually expecting for what it is that they are going to be getting. This is eventually going to lead to greater prosperity, but just because Mercury is retrograde right now, I would say proceed with caution, but also just proceed with a little bit of a, you know, there's no need to rush things right about now, especially when Mercury is retrograde. For those of you open to meeting someone new, or getting to know somebody, intimacy and being really close, like wanting something that is substantive, right? Not wanting something superficial, but wanting to have a moment where you really feel like you're getting to know this person, or wanting to connect with somebody where you feel that it's not just, you know, some flaky thing, but that you want somebody who really is serious and really wants to commit. That's going to be part of the discussion that is taking place for you. Now, keep in mind, you know, with the best of intention, people tend to be, like, you know, it said, Maya Angelou, one of my favorite quotes of hers, when people show you who they are, believe them. And that's really important right about now. But people also change, right? So it could be that you meet somebody and they are saying, yeah, I want commitment, I want something real. Yeah, for sure. They're right there with you. But that's one thing, right? But then there's this whole other level of like compatibility and pacing and what commitment actually looks like, what commitment actually means. Is that word itself so scary? Is it that they just don't want to take responsibility, but they want, you know, everything that comes with a relationship? These are issues that are going to be there for you to further explore, especially with anybody that you might meet right about now. Well, I will stop there. Thank you so much again for this moment with you. I'm truly so grateful for it. I love this interaction. I have so much love and gratitude for you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here with me. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.